Welcome into the Edge of Philly Sports Painted Lines post-game live. The Eagles coming off a 32-21 loss on Monday Night Football. We'll be right back with analysis, breakdown. I don't know about player of the game, but we'll get into the loss and the horrific refereeing, I'll say. Be back in a few. Welcome into the Edge of Philly Sports Painted Lines post-game live. I'm Freddie Burns. I have with me here Mr. Al Safiri from Edge of Philly, Big Al, Pat from Ambler, here that on the radio, but from Devereaux Sports, Pat Bernard, and Joey Marks from the Patterson Ave Fanatics. Tough loss tonight, guys. The undefeated streak is over. We'll get into the game, why we thought they lost, but let's just start right now. Start the healing. Initial reactions. I'll go first. Start with you, Joe Marks.
Tough loss. But this was the Eagles' bugaboo of that second half. They've struggled to score and maintain a offensive stranglehold on teams in the second half all season long. This just came back to bite them in the ass, especially because the second quarter was not the way that they usually like to write the script on.
How about you, Pat?
The Eagles beat themselves. The Eagles had two opponents, the Washington Commanders and themselves, and they beat themselves tonight. This was an easable, winnable game. Tons of mistakes on the field. Second half, you don't even start your running game until the second half, rather. Just an absolute disgrace. If I'm going to point the fingers on anybody, it's going to be Nick Sirianni for this game planning, and that's where I point the fingers at. This was horrible. This could have been solved in the first half, but you don't even go to the run game. You abandoned the run game. It was horrible on the second half. Bad play call. Obviously, we saw the one that sticks out with the one with Goddard, the face mask. We seen that was all the missed call. However, you got to give Taylor Heinicke credit. He carved that defense up. He carved that defense up in the first half, and then the second. You gotta give that kid credit. We all know that Carson Wentz ain't getting his job back. That's one thing we can take away.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
No.
Big Al, how are we feeling? We know how we're feeling. What's your initial reaction to this loss? I mean, we're 8-1.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to get upset at an 8-1 team. But the way they played this game, coming off, a mini bye week, if you want to call it that, not looking energized at all. Taylor Heinicke and the Washington offense made us look silly. The time of possession was just, I don't even know where to begin with that one. They took out key players out of this. A.J. Brown, non-factor. Guys finally getting more chances, like Miles Sanders doing a good job. Quez Watkins coughing up the ball. Yeah, bad officiating, bad moments could really burned us. But if we controlled this game the way we normally have, they would have just been speed bumps on the way to victory.
I tend to agree with all of you. Obviously, they definitely beat themselves. And let's just start this out in the first half. Let's just kind of go through the game and has it evolve. It starts out, and it's looking like the special teams is going to screw us initially, but then we get a penalty. And then the turnover, obviously inside the 20, we come right down. They do a couple runs by Hurts. We're up 7-0. Washington comes right back down, make it 7-7. Eagles battle through. We're at 14-7. So we're at 14-7. At that point, how are you feeling about the game, Al?
You feel this game's still in it. I mean, and like everybody, everybody looked at this schedule thinking this was a win for us. And I guess until we started coughing up the ball in the second half, at key moments. After we have a big moment, we cause us to have a big down moment. So in the beginning of the game, yeah, I still felt very optimistic that this team was going to be fine and do fine and prevail over it. But kind of what Jim's saying here is we didn't see any pressure, any blitz packages, anything like that from Gannon's defense until mid to late third quarter. And at that time, it became too little too late. We had a gassed defense, gassed. Who actually got to give them credit at some points that they had some big stops at the end of the game when the time of possession was as wonky as it was.
I think the game kind of turned on the initial interception when Jalen Hurts threw that bomb to AJ Brown and he should have caught it. And that interception from that point on, the game turned the other way. Glaring holes in the first half defensively with time of possession. A lot of people are criticizing Gannon here on the feed. I can't criticize Jonathan Gannon that much. Like, the defensive line was getting blown off the freaking ball. At some point, you have to hold these players accountable for the way they're playing. And if the running backs are falling forward 2, 3, 4 yards, that's not on Jonathan Gannon. Now, there were scheming issues with him continuing to go with this five-man front. Without Jordan Davis, it's an issue. That's something he needs to adjust. But as far as going cover two, or not cover two, a deep cover, they had to. Every time they went man, the Commanders put McLaurin in the slot with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and he just ate him up. So as much as everyone's crying for man, it wasn't plausible. Like, it wasn't going to happen. Maybe you could have blitzed some more. I definitely agree with that. You can send a blitz, but you can't blitz all day, and you can't run blitz all day either. At some point, the players have to play, and especially that defensive line. That interior defensive line was horrendous. It really was horrendous until the last maybe few series. So we get to the half, and it's 20-14. I was still feeling confident. Joey Marks, how were you feeling at the 2014 mark at the half?
It was a little bit dicey. I still felt confident because I did feel like the Eagles were going up and down the field pretty well. Despite their 6 minutes and change of time of possession in the first half. Coming into the second half down, it just made me feel like they knew that they had to flip that script of time of possession. And, I felt confident that they could honestly do that. One of the reasons why I feel like people might be firing at Jonathan Gannon, and one of the reasons why my confidence level started to dip a lot in the second half, especially coming out early into the second half, is that the Eagles just gave up a lot of third down conversions to the Commanders. And that's if you can't get off the field as a defense, you're not giving your offense any kind of chance to keep you in the game or keep you ahead in the game. And I think there's where my confidence plummeted, is that when the Commanders started putting together really long drives and sustaining those third down conversions, that's when it got really hairy for me.
The third down conversions are a great point for the first half. The Washington Commanders were 9 of 12 for a third down, but Gannon adjusted, and in the second half they were, I think, I got to do the math, 3 for 9, 3 for 10, something in that range. So the third down conversions, you can't get off the field. They're gassed, but they did. I'm going to all the people in the comments coming at Gannon. He adjusted, and they adjusted and made those changes. Now, the big thing that I think hurt this team is turnovers. You're not going to win the football game with that many turnovers, and certainly not from an emotional standpoint with huge big gains and then turning the ball over after the gains. Dallas Goedert, I don't care if you got face masked. It was a terrible call. They should have called the face mask, but you hold on to that ball like it's your child, regardless if you get a face mask call. Watkins, bomb, catch, falls down, gets up. He's holding the ball. Like, what are we doing here, boy? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you had turnovers. You're not going to win the football game. Turn it over.
The turnover game is absolutely what's been winning us these games, and I agree with you wholeheartedly in that one, Fred. I mean, you do hold on to the ball. I'll give Dallas Goedert a little due when you're getting your neck twisted off. Sometimes holding on to the ball becomes not the first thought in your mind. And I'll touch on that a little bit. And I know we talked about this in some of our chats and stuff. That you can sit there and look over a scoring play 10 times over, or um, a turnover 10 times over, but you have to look past an obvious missed call is something the NFL has to fix for the coming
Yes,
years.
I agree.
I think
Well,
it's
you also,
I agree.
I think the equivalent for that is like in baseball, you can't argue balls and strikes. And I agree that, and look how the MLB might be trying to change that with the robo umps. You got to the NFL has to start to review. If you're going to look at a call, you can't turn a blind eye to something that's very blatant. Yes, something that's subjective. Yeah, I can understand that, but something that is clear and blatant, that cannot be overlooked.
No, and it's part of your review package. And like you see it before the process of the fumble, the face mask is what caused it. He had his face and he was twisting that guy's twisting Dallas guy's neck around, which
2 hands
caused
on the
him to
ball,
drown.
Pat. 2 hands on
I
the
listen,
ball.
I get it. You gotta hold that baby like you said, like a baby. But however, like you're going like this, it's not easily, and your head's getting driven into the ground. It's also so it's a little hard to do. I mean, like I'm not trying to make excuses for Goddard, but it is what it is. I mean, like I said, to me, if I look at the overall game, like you said, starting that first half, look, Josh Sweat got the sack. He got them on the sacks. Like I thought this was going to be our normal kind of game where we had this thing going. But no, like like I said, you gotta give Taylor Heineke credit. He was smart with the ball. Ron Rivera know how to, like they said, their whole game plan. They were telling you in the telecast they wanted to keep Jalen Hurts off the field as much as they can, and they were killing this team softly, if you will, by taking their time and by keeping the defense on, and they pick them apart little by little. Well, I told Al on Sunday on our show, I told him, I said, how the Eagles are going to beat the Washington Commanders over the middle, and it was the complete opposite. We got a dose of that medicine because if you saw Terry McLeod, those guys were open over the middle. Like I don't know if Mannix controls that over the middle is in the secondary part because obviously that thing was wide open and
Well,
they
he
took
was hurt.
full advantage.
Well, the Eagles beat themselves, certainly, and you hit that point earlier. They certainly got gashed up the middle as far as the run D. Let's get into that, but we started talking about penalties, and I want to kind of stay on each topic if we can. The penalties now, 7 penalties for 75 yards, and including, now some of them were warranted, but that egregious call at the end of the game against Brandon Graham where Taylor Heineke takes a damn knee. Brandon Graham is already on his way to the ground, and he tries his best to hold up. Now, the NFL has to figure something out here because I understand we're trying to protect quarterbacks, but this is multiple games this season where this happens, and it'll just go forgotten. Like we've already forgotten about, I forget the game it was earlier in the year. Everyone gets all crazy for a week, and then it just disappears, and the NFL knows that. The Eagles may still very well lose this game, but that call was horrendous. How did you feel about that call, Al?
I mean, listen,
Missed call. That call, yeah.
It was a call, and it was the fact of the call is the guy gave himself up. Yes, he took a knee in the midst of guys running at him. You could make I can see you could make an argument either side if he's slowing up or slowing down, but I've never seen a quarterback take a knee after scrambling around for a few seconds trying to get the play off. And what is the guy supposed to do? Just stop? I mean, if he took his head square off, and came at him full force, I could kind of understand the call to a point. You can obviously see, especially when they slow the video down, that Brandon was trying to stop. They were stopping with him. They were touching the man while he's down, and I think that's also something that's kind of forgot. Like he's a quarterback, so if he takes the knee behind the line of scrimmage, if he's down, and maybe that wasn't thought of for a second. He forgot. He's just trying to touch the man while he's down. But it's kind of a BS call in the sense that maybe I wouldn't think if it's BS if it's the other way around. But I think it is a BS call that he was taken down. If, like I said, if his head was taken square off his shoulders, Brandon Graham came out full force, trucking down, and just took his helmet right off. Okay, I can see where the calls come. But you can obviously see him slowing up, trying to keep, trying to take away from the energy. I mean, the guy was literally scrambling around for 3.5 seconds. You're running full force at this point.
Which brings a great point here, Robert Plank Jr. Thank you for listening, and everyone listening. Please support us. If you could smash that subscribe button, hit that like button for us, share it out. We really appreciate the support, and I really thank you. Thank you for listening, Alberto. I'm going to get to you with all the crying comments as well. I want to talk about that actually, because I don't really think we're crying, and regardless of what side you're on, I want to hear this. But this brings me to a question that I want to go to you, Joe. Should so I didn't even read your comment, Robert. They have 20 camera angles. Almost everything should be reviewable. If you win the challenge, keep your challenge. Now, it gets crazy if every single play is being reviewed. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But, Joe, should everything be reviewed?
Look, in the NHL, they have it where the refs get buzzed if there's something that's reviewable. So my feeling is the NFL should do something like that. Whereas it doesn't necessarily always have to be in the coach's hands. It can be in the camera's hands, the 20 cameras, and like the NFL Central in Secaucus, New York, or whatnot. Like it could be something like that because NHL is pretty good. I'm not saying they're flawless, but they don't slow down their game a lot with some of those buzzes. Like if it's about a goal going in or no goal, a high stick, a penalty, it could be for a lot of reasons that those refs get buzzed. So my feeling is the NFL should revert to that system versus what they've been going to, because I completely agree with you, Fred, is that when you have all those cameras, when we have this kind of technology, it should improve the game, not be an indictment to the game.
I agree with you too. They should just have someone upstairs that can just buzz in and be like, "Yo, you missed the call," and just move forward.
To add on to that real quick, my point to this certain situation, you're reviewing turnovers and scoring plays, correct? So if it's in the review, something that play, and you went in the rule, you just simply say, listen, it's like anytime you can call offsides or holding on call holding on almost any play in the NFL. So yeah, you can take that off the thing. You can't call any holding, but anything blatant like a face mask or something like that, if you have to review the play anyway, why can't that be turned over? Not saying you have to have somebody buzz down in every play. You get
Right.
your challenges for a reason. Could everything be reviewable if there was offsides or something? I think you have to have a certain, dividing line where you say yay or nay to that. But in this situation where they're reviewing it anyway, they're slow mo and going through it all the whole way every time, and you got to look past that. It's a blatant thing. Like you got to look past the situation. That's where I think they need to make the decision. If they see something this blatant in a play that must be reviewed, such as a scoring play or a turnover, then they call it back. That's just my thought, and that's maybe a scenario that doesn't happen very often, but it is a scenario that can come up.
Agree with you. Now let's get into the 4 baby girls. Please stop crying from Alberto Ortiz, who was later said he's a Titans fan. Hey, I have no problem with you like saying that we're crying or whining, but I don't really think we
Sure.
are. And I think like as a Titans fan and as an NFL fan, don't you agree? Like these calls need to be like worked out correctly. Like I'm not even saying the Eagles would have won. I'm just saying like you should. There's an easier way to get this done without even the replay they do now. It takes way too long. If they had a buzzer from up top, just go beep beep. Like we're watching on TV, we know right away. Like beep beep, done. Hey, call in the field. This is the call and done. So, Pat, do you think we're crying and whining about this, or do you think we just have like a legit like?
No,
we're being logical. I'm just curious.
Listen. No, you bring up an observation. We are not crying. We're talking this out like men. So Alberto, beat it, take a hike. No, listen. My thing is, no. Look, we have a legitimate beef because there was some bad officiating. However, well, like my man Joe Sullivan said, the bad turnovers on us cost us the game. I mean, the one like you said, Dallas Goddard. You could complain about the face masks. However, he fumbled. You know. Quaz downfield, drop, getting up and falling, and then causing a turnover. You can't be doing that here. You can't. And look, and I get it. Look, everyone's going to say it's just one game, and I would be okay with that. However, you still got Dallas and the Giants in your rearview mirror. Like it's not like we're running away with the division. I mean, they're right there. We go from that 1 seed down to you know, we could be losing that right now with them in a rearview mirror. So let's not, kid ourselves and say that, we're running away with this whole thing because, like I said, they're right there, and you see it. The Giants are right there sniffing behind us. So, look, we got to bounce back from this. We just got to learn. And look, whether you want to blame Gannon, whether you want to blame, Nick Soriani, whoever, this was a bad game on us, and and the officiating. That's what it comes down to. That's what.
Franny Burbage chiming in. Eagles got beat tonight. They didn't beat themselves. Outcoached, outplayed. It's going to happen in the NFL. 8-1. We move on. Game was won at the line of scrimmage. And I'd have to say, well, first, you still owe me a case of Icy House, Franny. I just got to get that out of the way.
And a cheesesteak.
And a cheesesteak. But secondly, I haven't heard from you in like 2 years, I think. But anyhow, I kind of agree with you. I think I'm going to change my point here. The Eagles did get beat tonight, and it started with another topic. We cover the turnovers, we cover the penalties with the play calling, especially in the first half. And in the first half, a team, and we killed Andy Reid on this for years, to have 20 plays ran in a game where your defense is getting gashed via the run and the pass, to throw the ball 18 times and only run the ball twice was horrendous. And it was terrible play calling, and it really got the Eagles behind.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys feel? And then I'll go in the defensive play calling. Gannon, I don't think his play calling was as bad as people are making it out to be. I think getting beat up front, which Joe Sullivan chimes in, I couldn't agree more. Getting beat up front was more the issue on defense. But again, continuing to stick to that 5-man front and having the corners 8 yards off repeatedly is a problem. He did make some adjustments. How did you guys feel about the play calling? I'll start with you first, Al. Both sides of the ball.
Play calling on the offense. I'll start with the defense. There was no adjustments until, and I said it earlier, later in the third quarter. Didn't come out the second half with the adjustments. It seemed like they were the same defensive play schemes that they had. If they're not getting pressure, and I agree with you what you said earlier, Fred, that you can't blitz every time. You can't bring that pressure every time. But there's none. There's none sprinkled in until the third, and that's when they got Heineke off his heels, and he was thrown into the far corner, throwing the ball away. And that made a defense who's been playing for 3/4 of the game at this point actually look better than they did in the first half. So I think the defensive scheme, the defensive changes came a little late. The offensive play calling, my eyes, in the beginning, once again, they look like they're, AJ Brown was a non-factor. And I feel like they're leaning on, he was forcing it, even that turnover. I mean, I don't know who you blame that one on. And a lot of people are blaming it on AJ Brown for not securing it, but he had 2 guys on him. And there was a wide open Devontae Smith, like right in front of him, about 10 yards in front of him. But it just seemed like they were relying heavy on him. And then in the second half, they made changes. Now you see Miles Sanders running the ball and them chipping away, kind of what Washington did to us in the first half of the game. And then they start incorporating guys like Quez Watkins into it. Dallas Goedert is being seen again. Of course, Quez Watkins, you can talk about the turnover, but ultimately he was wide open. It was a good play. He just didn't secure the ball. So they were not ready for him in the first half of the game. The offense took the first half to make the adjustments. 27 seconds of possession in the second half. Any quarter is not going to help you, but that's killer, man.
Joe, did you like the play calling on the offensive side of the ball tonight?
I did, and to be honest, like if we all look at it from maybe hindsight,
you said you did or didn't?
I did. And there's a main reason for that. Because if you take away those fumbles from both Goddard and Quez Watkins, this team doesn't lose this game. They had control of this game for a majority when they had possession of the ball offensively. It was only defense, and I still kind of go back to the idea, and you were right, Fred, about like with the third down conversions, and you accumulate that with the time of possession, that's going to gas your defense. So by the time you get into the second half, regardless if that third down conversion flips back over to the defense's favor, how much more gas does that defense still have, especially if the time of possession is still in the Commanders' favor? So this offense didn't get enough of a chance and opportunity to really capitalize off of what they were starting to kind of accomplish with the lack of time that they had on the field. And it again, if you take away those really bad mistakes, and I'm not listen, I am not excusing the fumbles. I am 100% with you, Fred, that those shouldn't happen. And I know the whole Dallas Goddard, but look, you are a football player. You hold on to that thing like your life depends on it because you get paid a lot of money to do so. And my feeling is if those two turnovers don't happen for the Eagles and the way that they were moving the ball and the lack of time of possession, all three of those things, if those things change, even a little bit, this game is far different offensively for the Eagles.
I think offensively, the Eagles' play calling was terrible, and they didn't run the ball. And I think they made adjustments in the second half, to your point, Joe, which if you eliminate the turnovers, they're moving the ball down the field. But that's only because they did start to run the ball, which in turn, I think, helped the defense. Wally Rajachenko checks in. Will Fletcher Cox be back soon? Can he give the defense a much-needed spark like he has in the past? I don't know if that was a joke. Will he be back soon? Because he was getting blown off the ball all night long. I'll go to you, Pat, on the defensive scheme. Do you think it was Gannon or was it Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave and the rest of that defensive line for just about the whole game up until those last three drives?
No, I'm going to hold my own. I'm going to blame Gannon. I mean, you could have made some adjustments, and you didn't. You
What
just didn't.
adjustments?
You could have made some kind of. You saw what they were doing. They were pickpocketing you over the middle. You could put double coverage on Terry McCown. They were. That was a primary target for it. Like which I was alluded to. Like when it came primary targets, the Eagles were shutting them down up until this game. They were shutting those primary targets. They weren't doing that. They weren't. They were leaving. He was wide open, except for that one. He got the one. They got the one pick. But other than that, he was open all over the middle to the one corner route. He was wide open. We didn't take no adjustments there. So I mean, that's my issue. Like I said, we didn't do. I mean, Gannon didn't make those adjustments there. Like you said, you could blame the players too, but most of the times this scheme of his did not work. So
Well,
that's where I'm at. And to your point, like, and I do want to piggyback off what you both guys, if I can, about the
yeah.
offensive side of the ball. Again, banning the run until the second half. Until the second half, you're 12 carries for 54 yards. He could have caused. Sanders could have caused a lot more damage. And I'm curious to know why they didn't go to the run in the first half, because they clearly Ron Rivera had your number. He had your number with this. Can you guys figure out why they banned the run in the first half?
I think
'Cause
he probably just got caught up in his own plays. We've seen it happen before with other coaches, but they seem to not do it in the second half. I'll give them credit for at least
sometimes the early
adjustment.
success that they had that does it to them. They had that early success where they got the ball turned over. They three quick plays. They got a touchdown, and then the second time they had the ball, they had success. And sometimes they will not abandon it. And then I think you saw a little bit of a panicking from them. And then when they try to play small ball by pounding the ball and running it, chipping away 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, it became too little too late, and there's time running off the clock.
I would ask that, if because the time of possession was so skewed, if you start running the ball, like say in the beginning of the second quarter, does that start to kind of, level out that base of time of possession? Does that change the game?
I think it could. I mean, it definitely wouldn't put them in the hole because then you're down 9-0 after at one point. You had control of the game at one point. You you threw to get the lead. I mean, that turnover that they had inside the 20 in the beginning, I mean, that was a gimme touchdown too. So if you take that away, the offense wasn't all that great throwing.
But if you run the ball more after that 12-play drive by the Commanders, you kind of give back a little bit of that gas to your defense and give back more momentum to your offense.
Agreed.
And then, like I said, but back to the defense side of the ball again. McLaurin, 8 catches for 128 yards. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. wide open over the middle corner routes. How you want him? He was there. I mean,
Well, you got to remember the Eagles were down Avonte Maddox. So
right.
like,
And then,
the issue was when they play the coverage zone or man, who's going to have when they set up that slot guy? Is it going to be Josiah Scott who covers McLaurin, or Curtis Samuel, or Jahan Dotson, or are they going to move C.J. Gardner up, who was good in the slot for the Saints, but he hasn't really done good in the slot here. I remember the Jaguars game when he had to come up, he didn't do too well. The rain kind of helped us out there. So I think that was a mismatch that was exploited by the Commanders. I want to jump into player grades here because I don't want to go all night, but jump into some player grades. But before we do player grades, left field question here because I've got some text on this, and I was promoting this guy in training camp to make the team. I thought he'd be really good. He sucked all year. But left field question: we're really going to let this dude return and kicks and punts all year? It kind of bothers me. It's kind of just a nil thing with Britton Covey back there. He literally. I mean, at least he doesn't fumble. Like maybe they're so scared with Rager's fumbles that Watkins fumbles in the past that they just want a sure-handed guy. But there was not a time, and Dibe says it every post game that special teams doesn't matter. I damn well think it does, and I think a 15 to 20-yard return from your kicker punt returner can really change a game and switch the things, especially when you're down. Al, how do you feel about our kick returner, Britton Covey?
To be honest with you, well, Covey, I mean, how he has a job some days is beyond me. I can't believe that there's nobody else out there who could at least just return. But that's not here nor there. But my point is, I kind of agreed with Dobbs when he said that, in the sense that it doesn't hurt you till it does, and it's kind of silly to say it that way, but the special teams isn't always going to be a factor, but it's these kind of games where it becomes a factor. And then if you lose a game, then you have to start rethinking. I think Britton Covey there might be a chance he's not going to be playing on this team next game.
Yeah, but bring. How you feel about Pat? How about bring Greg Ward up? I mean, I mean, he doesn't give you much more, but I feel like he at least got you 8 to 10 yards. I know it's not a huge deal, but it's like literally, it's like a statue's back there that just catches it and gets tackled. And he's small. He's small.
Sure hands.
He has sure hands, and so does Greg Ward.
Yeah.
So and he's small. So like any momentum he has, we've seen him run it out from the back of the end zone or middle of the end zone and just get whacked at the 18. Like his weight just gets thrown back. Like, let's not beat this to death, but like we got to move on from this, right?
correct. I would take a shot. Why not? Just take a shot with them. Bring them on up. I mean, anything you need something back there. You need, like you say, you need that returner. They don't have a returner. They don't have that. They need it right now. And that's, like I said, it might be, like you said, it's not much of a big deal to an 8-1 team, but who knows? He might be one of those times. Look, they could probably bail us out tonight. So it's like I said, but just like I said, to me, this loss, man, it's like I said, I get it. It's not a big deal. It's an 8-1 team, but like I said, just your two divisional rival teams are sitting right behind you.
Like you said, 8-1. It's not really. It's not a big deal. It's just a game at home that you could have won. And the Redskins' defense, I think, is pretty good. It's progressively gotten better. I mean, they held the Vikings last week to 20 points. They pretty much kept Jefferson and Thielen in check. So this isn't a terrible defense we're talking about here. Let's give a couple player grades here. Let's start with Jalen Hurts. He was 17 of 26, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception that wasn't his fault. A 94 quarterback rating. He had 1 sack for 5 yards, which was his fault. He totally gave up on that last third down there. Didn't even look at his reads. And then he also had 6 carries, 28 yards, and a rushing touchdown as well. I'll start with you, Joe. What is your quickly? We're at like the 35-minute mark here. I want to try to wrap it up by 45. What is your grade on Jalen Hurts?
I'm gonna go B.
B.
Yep.
How about you, Al?
Yeah, B. Yeah, I'll go B. I can't blame too much on him.
Pat?
Agreement, B.
I'm a B too. I think he had a good game. Not a couple things you could have nitpicked at, but that's about it. Receiver-wise, A.J. Brown, 1 catch, 7 yards. On that 7-yard catch, he appeared to be injured on the play. I don't know if he was playing injured or not. Their corners aren't amazing. I mean, St. Juste has really come along these last few games. He held his own against Justin Jefferson last week. But thoughts on A.J. Brown? Start with you, Pat. Grade on A.J. Brown.
I mean, you can't really grade him. He got hurt. I mean, he got dinged up. I'll give him.
He came back in.
Yeah, he came back in, but for him getting dinged, I'll give him a B. Just because he got back in, I know he wasn't much of a playmaker, but I mean, still, I had to give him a mole, if you will, just because he got hurt. So I'll give him a pass.
You got this Franny Burbage guy breaking your balls, Pat. Pat seems really sad. It's going to be okay, big guy. I don't think Pat's sad. I think he's hustling his ass off. Tired, a little tired, maybe.
Hey, listen, Franny, you want to come give me a hug? I'm more than welcome, pal.
Freaking loves giving hugs.
Here we go.
It's late night too. So
defensively, I want to get into the secondary, and we can put it to the cornerbacks. Give me a cornerback grade, Al. You can mix Josiah Scott. We'll lump them all in, actually. Epps, Josiah Scott, Bradbury, Slay, and Epps. What's your grade on the D-backs tonight?
B- if it wasn't for the interception. It might have been a C if it wasn't for C.J. Gardner's interception and some of the bigger plays later in the game. But I'll give them a B- overall tonight. There was sometimes, once again, is this scheme or is this the way they're playing? They're playing off the back of their heels, and they're trying to, like Slay's trying to have a foot race with McLaurin, and that's just not going to work.
Joe, how you feeling on the D-backs tonight?
All right, so I'm gonna give him a hard C, only because I felt like you have a guy like Taylor Heineke, who I don't feel like is like the next coming of a great quarterback, that completely carved you up. And for me, that's just not good enough, especially for the level of talent you have on the secondary. So I'm giving them a hard C.
Taylor Heineke, as you bring up, I don't really think he did anything, really. He was 17 of 29, 211 yards, 1 interception, averaged 7 yards per pass, had 3 sacks for 33 yards, a 66.9 quarterback rating. I mean,
just a reminder, the Washington Commanders used the same recipe we did at the end of the year last year tonight on us. They reversed, they flipped the script on us, for lack of better words. They pounded the ball on us. They kept pounding the ball up the middle. They put that there. They had a couple timely passes when they needed it, but ultimately it was just the run ball, and they just kept. It was a death by 1,000 cuts.
We're gonna get the run D next. Hold up. We'll get to the run D next. Just real quick, Pat, your grade. The receivers for the Washington Commanders had 17 catches, 211 yards, 0 touchdowns, 25 targets. So out of the 25 targets, 17 of them were catches, which means only 8 times was there a stop. Now that I preface that, I didn't really tell Joe and Al that. What's your grade on the D-backs?
C. I still want to go C.
I give them a freaking D-, guys. They sucked. They sucked. Bradbury and Slay. Slay looked like a goddamn 3. He was getting carved up. McLaurin, 8 catches, 128 yards, 0 touchdowns. I think the D-backs sucked. I
thought I was the angry one.
And part of it is the defensive line, which we'll go into now. Run D. They were getting gashed up the middle. It's not going to look like it was 49 carries, 152 yards. Yeah. 3.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Now, you look at those stats, you're going to be like, 3 yards a carry, no big deal. But the whole point of it was the timeliness of the running and the way they were falling forward for an extra 2-3 yards, which tells you the attitude of your defense. If you're if the other team's falling forward, that means they have the momentum and they're overpowering you. And I think that's a huge factor in football that sometimes is overlooked. Al, you were about to get into it. What's your grade on the defensive line?
Tonight, F minus G, if I could go any lower at this point. The fact that one touchdown where they had 4 of our defenders on top of Robinson and he still reached across to break the plane and get the touchdown, to me, that's where we got destroyed. That's where I said, like they said, they flipped the script on us from what we did to teams last year. They did exactly what they needed to do. And our defensive line, I don't know if they thought this was going to be a walkthrough. They took too much time off this mini bye. They got too relaxed, whatever it is. F for this, for the defensive front.
Stop playing 7 in the box when the opposition is playing a jumbo package. Hey, Steve, there were times they put 8 in the box against that run game, and they still got gashed for 5-6 yards. It was literally the D-line and the linebacker play with, like, TJ Edwards was playing patty cake sometimes. The
Mhm.
lineman would come up and he's like, Pat, 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 where's the ball? Where's the ball? At one point, I'm like, one adjustment I think Gannon should have made: go to a goddamn 4-3, get Nakobe Dean in there, and let's see what he could do a little bit if your linebackers aren't getting in the holes. Now your D line's getting blown off. It's hard to fully blame it on the linebackers, but there are adjustments that could have been made, but I don't think that changed the game. I think it's more
And
the D line. Go ahead.
when you go back and look at the tape, you're going to see a lot of stunts from the offensive line, or the Washington Commanders offensive line, that in some ways were very simple, yet they kept biting, and they kept opening these diagonal holes that allowed them to go get those 4, 5, 6 yards when they needed them. And like I said, Robinson was literally carrying them downfield half the time.
Steve, 12 third down conversions, dude. Yeah, we touched on this. 9 of them, though, were in the first half, Steve. The second half was a lot better with the third down conversions on defense, unless you're talking about our offense, which you potentially could be talking about. Hold on, let me check that real quick.
Well, my point, though, in that same thing.
No,
we're 12 for 21.
No, we're 5 for 38. Or we're 5 for 8.
I'm sorry, 5 for 8. They were 12. They were 12 for 21.
Which goes to my point. He's talking about the defense. So, Joe, go ahead. What's your grade on the D line?
My grade is an F, and I agree with Al wholeheartedly. I would have liked to have given him a D minus, only because, like you had said, 3 yards doesn't average 3 yards doesn't seem like a whole hell of a lot, and they had to do 46, 49 carries to get that. To get the yardage that they got, and better running backs do more with less, and that worries me for what's coming next for the Eagles. But I agree with you in the sense that they have to fix the tackling. So I would have gone D minus, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. They have to fix the tackling. They get a hard F.
Pat, how we feeling?
Yeah.
I think the tight end, as Steve says, was blowing our defensive ends off the ball. Logan Thomas.
Listen, I hate to give anyone the D, you know what I'm saying? But in this case, for this case,
That's why we feel bad for your wife.
Yes, well, she don't get the D much often, but anyway. But anyway, I had to give this team a defense. I get it, a D, because they tried to flip the switch in the second half. I get all that, but still, you were flat. You're flat. Just that's the only word it comes flat. Just nothing. You got 1 sack in the whole entire game. Nothing much after that. D.
Time of possession, Commanders 40 to the Eagles 19 minutes. That's actually pretty increase based on what they were in the first half. The first half, I believe it was like 25-5 or whatever that numbers were.
25 to 6.5.
So to
get
up to
6.5.
To get up to 19 minutes shows that the adjustments did work, because without the turnovers, obviously they were a factor. The offensive defense looked a lot better. All right, let's get our players of the game, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And it could be a Redskin. I am a Commander. So, Pat, who is your player of the game?
Well,
actually, no. I just impromptu switch here. Who is your bad player of the game? Who is your? Give me both. Your player of the game and the player of the game the player on this field that pissed you off. There we go.
Okay. Well, if I want to go player in the game, I gotta give it to Travis Taylor Heineke for being the player of the game offensively, just because he took care of this, unbeatable D that no one had, that everyone had questioned that he was going to get rolled over, and he proved everyone wrong. And he's been stepping up for these past few weeks. But my player on the and the person to blame on this has to be, if I can, the wideout core itself, for just dropping balls in clutch time. Just the whole, Quez Watkins, that ball right there, you're right there. It's in your hands, and you get up and fumble it. Like, there's no wrong. Like you say, you got to carry that baby like it's your baby, and you just fumble it right there, and right there at the end. There's no excuse for it. That clutch time, he screwed up. Blame you, Mr. Watkins.
Joe, your player of the game and your bum of the game.
The player of the game is co-player of the game. It's the Washington Commanders running core. The running backs really killed us. We've already covered that, and the idea that they gouge us death of 1,000 cuts. As Al said, it's spot on. The bum of the game, uh, I'd have to give it to Darius Slay because for a guy
Go one.
when this had the push come to shove and we needed a shutdown or a turnover, he came up silent.
I like it. I agree with Slay. I got my own, but Slay's a good one. Al, player of the game, bum of the game.
Player of the game, Terry McLaurin. I mean, we controlled Justin Jefferson, but we couldn't control Terry McLaurin. Um, 8 receptions. Nobody else. The next closest had 3 receptions. I know that I was going to say the running back core as well, but I didn't want to steal that from Joe. So I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin for being able to make our secondary look silly. Player of the game or bum of the game would probably be Bradbury because I forgot he was even on the team for this game. Until you said his name, I'm like, oh shit, that's right, Bradbury's on the team.
I thought
So-
he was hurt. I thought him and Maddox were both hurt.
It was certainly a rough game for the D-backs. Player of the game, it's tough. I don't want to. I think it's Terry McLaurin as well. I guess I'll give a side one just in the, to be different. I'll give Jalen Hurts a player of the game on the Eagles side of the ball. I thought, he didn't turn the ball over tremendous. Like the turnover was on AJ Brown. It's not like he became unglued and started rushing passes and throwing stuff everywhere. He had probably one mistake where he didn't step up in the pocket and one where he decided to run. So I'll give him that for the Eagles, but it really is Terry McLaurin. My bum of the game. And if people are commenting it down here, I want to give them credit because I agree. Fletcher Cox, man. I've been defending this guy for years. I think I have his autographed jersey. I do. Haven't framed it yet. But he's supposed to be, Jordan Davis goes out. He's supposed to step up and be a leader here. And he's just leading the pack and getting blown off the ball against an interior offensive line of the Washington Commanders that is hurt. My bum of the game is no doubt Fletcher Cox. An honorable mention. You can give Hargrave that as well. And the whole interior defensive line. And another key injury for the Eagles, I think that was hurt is when Sweat went out. We forgot to mention when Sweat went out. Sweat had a huge turnover. He's a big part of that right side of the Washington offensive line, who Hassan Reddick crushed the first game. Sweat had it on that first play. So bum of the superhero coming in. Thank you for listening. Bum of the game, Quez Watkins. Yeah, he was a bum too. There was a lot of bums, I guess.
Yeah, I could definitely say Quez was. Listen, if you look at all the turnovers that we had in this game, Quez was the most deflating because it was the dumbest one. The other ones you could look either way. It was a tough call, good play. It could have went different ways, but the Quez Watkins one was the nail in the coffin in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because AJ, like you said, Fred, it was more his turnover with the pick, and then Dallas Goedert. We can complain about the face mask and everything like that, but Quez, there was no excuse for it.
And if I gotta give someone else credit for the game, I gotta give it to the Commanders secondary because they had you saw in that second half where Hurts had struggled where he wanted to go with the rock at times. You saw him with the quick three and outs. He couldn't figure out where he wanted to go with that rock at times. Where he trying to go out on his own, or where he trying to make a nice little dink and dunk pad. Like he couldn't make no adjustments because they locked down everywhere. What he wanted to do offensively.
And on a side note, that secondary, that same one you're talking about, Pat, is one of the highest penalized secondary in the league.
Yes. So let me ask you guys a question. Moving forward, I mean, now that the tape is out, if you will, is this going to be a problem going down the road?
That's a good point you bring up because we got the Colts next week with Jonathan Taylor. We just watched, Damian Pierce run all over us on Thursday Night Football.
Eric Henry's coming up.
You got a lot of running teams coming up. So they're going to have to find a way.
Smell himself a little bit if they're coming off that dub.
I'm telling you, they're going to have to move to a 4-3. It's in the playbook. They ran 4-3 last year. Right now, they've been doing a lot of 5-2 defense or nickel, where it's 2 linebackers and you got 5-2 with the linebackers, or 4-2. What's it called? 6. Is that the right math? Anyhow,
It's
two
a-
linebackers, bunch of
Yeah,
D-backs, and they have to adjust that. Like it's going to be a problem. I don't know. I don't know if you take. I don't know what you do, but they
And I
have to
can't
stop
believe
the
Jordan
run.
Davis is that big of a factor. I mean, not saying he's not, but I can't believe that not having
Yeah.
Jordan Davis, they don't know. They did have Jordan Davis last year, at the end of the year, and they stepped it up. So and they had an older Fletcher Cox in there, Javon Hargrave. All these guys were here, like you said, last year. And I'm saying that Jordan Davis isn't a difference maker, but the fact that Jordan Davis isn't in there and these guys can't hold their own jock strap, what were they doing before?
And it's not, and it's not all Jordan Davis, because Jordan Davis wasn't playing. He was playing like 40%, 30% of the snaps.
Thank you.
So like you have to realize that, and it's not like when Jordan Davis was in, they were like giving up 1 yard a carry or 2 yards a carry. They were still giving up, I believe, 5 point or no, I think it lowers to 4.3, 5.3 without him. So they got to figure something out on that defensive line. Are we worried? No, I don't know. We're 8-1, guys.
Well, Fred. I mean, I want to touch on something before we go. That what you had said about Nakobe Dean. So with this struggle with this defense today and tonight, I agree with. I've kind of been waving the flag for Nakobe Dean in a while. Is now this the time where the honeymoon is over with the linebackers and just giving Kaiser White and all these guys carte blanche to be starters? Is it time to rotate in the other linebackers who haven't gotten enough time, like Nakobe Dean?
I don't think. I think you just go to a 4-3 where we have 3 linebackers instead of 2. I think TJ Edwards has played well this year, and I think Kaiser White, especially in coverage, they're not downhill like linebacker stoppers. But then again, last year we've had the downhill linebacker guys that can't cover crap. I'd much rather have them guys in there than Nate Jerry and Alex Singleton covering the title. You know what I mean? So like, I agree with you. They struggled tonight. I'm just saying, add Nakobe Dean in the mix, maybe get 3 linebackers in there to see if that helps alleviate the run. You can run blitz, but you can't run blitz all game. You might be able to run blitz against the Colts next week.
Yeah.
But like you get a good quarterback, and especially in the playoffs, I mean, you're not going to be able to.
And food for thought. I mean, just not even an answer, just something to think about and to talk about into the week. Is now that you have Quinn there, Quinn has got a couple games under his belt and all that stuff. You have him on the defensive end. Do you slide Reddick back into that linebacker position if you move to that 4-3?
I don't know. Reddick's strength is pass rush. He's not, coverage isn't his strength. And
Well,
stopping the run. I mean, he could stop the run, but that's not his thing. So
That's what I'm thinking. Like more like a run stopper from that position more than on the edge.
I got to know how long Sweat's hurt for before I can say that.
Well, he was back in, so I don't know if he's out, but yeah.
But we're at the 50-minute mark here. I appreciate everyone that's listening in tonight. Please do us a favor, whether you're listening on the Painted Lines or the Edge of Philly Sports feed, please hit that subscribe button, like button. Please retweet us, share us, comment on YouTube, everywhere. We appreciate the support, and thank you everyone for everything. We love it. I want to just jump into our cool lineup we got going. We have so much going on here at the Edge of Philly Sports Network. Earlier today, you had the Sully Squad from Devereaux Sports. You have the Kelly Green Hour, the Birds of Round Table with the Painted Lines, Talking Philly Sports with Matty B. Such a great show. He has some good guests on, and I love his takes on things. Tune in to him 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. The times vary here sometimes, but so if you're looking at the schedule, they do move around. Just look on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages, and you'll see the adjustments. Chalk Talk, huge show on the Painted Lines. Learned so much from it. Shane Haff, who is also with Bleeding Green Nation, just education right there. Clear the Ice every Flyers post game with Matty B. You got Philly Press Box Radio, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. I will say the best possible guests you can have. The guests are amazing every single week. I mean, they had freaking Jimmy Rollins on last week. Jimmy Rollins. Chet does a great job. He snuck him right at the Hall of Fame banquet in Philly and got an interview. So, Edge of Philly Sports Live every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Al and Joe do such an awesome job. I'm in there sometimes, but great review of the sports week, all 4 for 4. You got Birds IQ on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Party on Broad. Do you care about the Union? We got that covered too. The Attacking Third, a nice Union show. Pat Bernard is on there often. Devereaux Sports there. Who else? Kelly Green Hour. Sixers post game. We have it all here. And don't forget, last but not least, he's on here, Joey Marks. the Patterson Ave Fanatics every Saturday at 9 a.m. Great show there. Just the guys sitting around watching. It feels like you're just, hanging out with the guys, talking sports with that show. And then a new show that's also on, Fox the Gambler. The Tough Cover is a new show that's been broadcasted on our network as well. I'll start with you, Joe. Where can everyone find you if they want to reach out to you and see your stuff?
You can my Twitter handles on here, but if you can't see it, at Joe Wolf 112680 on Twitter.
He loves when you talk shit to him. It gets him really fired up. So just go tweet, start breaking his stones. He'll respond. He'll rip right into you. Pat, where can they find you? Ambler?
Yeah, you can find me in Ambler. You can find me at Blue Oyster. What's up? No, you can find me Pat. Twitter,
Woody's.
Woody's. What's up? Pat from Ambler, YouTube, Twitch, all of it. Just look up Pat from Ambler on all social media platforms.
And Al, where can we find you?
If it says EOP in it, you can find me.
Mm-hmm.
But Big Al at EOP is my Twitter handle if you want to talk to me directly.
Where'd you get Woody's from? But go ahead.
Disappointing loss, but hey, we're 8-1. I think we all in the back of our heads are we gonna go 16, 17-0? Are we gonna do this? But in likelihood was not gonna happen. It's probably.
Can I say one good thing about this?
Here.
If you want to find a silver lining about this loss, we can finally stop the ridiculous conversation of we need to lose one. We need to lose one just to get off this perfect game thing.
Yep.
Maybe we can stop that conversation if you want to find one silver lining in the situation.
And I kind of want that Christmas Eve game to count. I mean, I kind of want it to count. I know it would suck for us if it's going to count, but I like games, dude. I don't like when we set our starters on that bull crap. But anyhow,
what's better than wrapping gifts and watching the birds?
Yup. Some eggnog would be perfect. But for Big Al, Pat from Ambler Devereaux Sports, and Joe Marks of the Patterson Ave,
and our advertisers,
Freddie Burns. Oh, we got plenty of advertisers. I guess we'll jump into them. I don't know what, Al, you got to set me up. Who's paying for what here? But I definitely know that David R. Cherry, Esquire, workers' compensation, motor vehicles, personal injury, and criminal law. If you got an issue with any of those things, call this guy right now. Well, right now, he probably won't answer, but he'll call you in the morning. 610-565-0300 or go to www.cherryinjurylaw.com. And also we have, I can't believe I forgot these guys actually, Philly sports trips. Ton of trips left to go to the end of the year here. And there's a bunch of tailgates at home as well. The Indianapolis trip, I'm pretty sure you're pretty late for that, but a big one that I think some EOP guys are going to be on. It's going to looking like that game up at the Meadowlands is going to be a really, really big game. So take a
little update on that is, by the way, they're sold out on both the Indy and the New York trip. You can still get the tailgate if you're already going up, but the rest of the full package is sold out. The next full package available is Chicago.
Well, then you're going to Chicago, which in my opinion is my most favorite town ever. I went there during the summertime. I would love to see it in the winter with the Christmas vibes and possibly some snow, a snow game at Soldier Field. And Soldier Field, this might be it for Soldier Field. I think this is the last year or next year, either. Anyhow, PhillySportsTrips.com. Go there, book a trip. They got other sport, all four sports, 5 for 5. They're the official sports trips of the union as well. So go to PhillySportsTrips.com. And for all of us, we will be back here live next week. Pre-game live, halftime live, post-game, pre-game. We're back to 1 o'clock next week. So that'll be at about 11 a.m. Halftime, obviously, is at halftime. And post-game is typically right after, within 5-10 minutes of the end of the game. We will see you next week. Go Birds.
Go Birds.